After discovering that my online love interest was my childhood friend, I ran. She chased me all the way to my house, cornering me against the wall. You said you had a secret you needed to tell me, mouth to mouth. It was the summer vacation of my first year in college, when I realized that my online love lived in the same city as I did. We arranged to meet at a restaurant not far from my home. We had known each other online for a year, been in a relationship for 6 months, and were about to meet for the first time. I was nervous. I carefully fixed my hair, glanced at the mirror, and was somewhat satisfied. My online love, a lively girl named Ju Gangly, sent me a message. I'm wearing a white dress, and I'll be there soon. My online username was Maiku and Kachiyu. After receiving the message, I quickly replied, I'm wearing a purple shirt and black pants. We hadn't exchanged photos online, so we were relying on codes to recognize each other. When I arrived at the restaurant, I noticed several girls in white dresses. Panicking, I lowered my head and sent her a message. Wife, it's your husband. I'm here, where are you? A few seconds later, my phone vibrated. She initiated a voice call. I pressed the answer button and said, hello? Instinctively, I scanned my surroundings. My eyes locked onto someone holding a phone to their ear. She was wearing a purple dress with long flowing hair, and her features were as beautiful as a painting. Her gaze was captivating. The moment our eyes met, I saw a hint of surprise in hers as well. Then, I heard a familiar voice from the other end of the phone. He Kong. Liu Ryan. Can someone tell me? How on earth did my online love for the past year turn out to be my childhood sweetheart? We had known each other since we were little, but after splitting into different academic tracks in high school, we lost touch. I can't believe I've been calling her wife online all this time. Someone please save me. As she walked towards me, I panicked. I bolted away at the speed of a 100-meter dash. I ran straight back home, rushed into my room, and leaned against the door, trying to calm my breathing. I began replaying the entire encounter in my head. We had met through a high school classmates group chat, and I thought her online name was particularly unique. In the group chat, I casually asked a question. She didn't private message me until a day later, and that's how we started chatting. It was during one of our chats that I jokingly confirmed our online relationship by saying, you can spend my money, sleep in my bed. I want to be your husband. It was just some cheesy online flirting. But she replied, sure, hubby. In that moment, my heart skipped a beat. But holy crap, that person turned out to be Liu Ryan. In real life, we never sparked anything. And yet I had been in an online relationship with her for half a year. Just as my frantic, uneven breathing began to calm down, I heard the sound of the door opening outside. Then came the sound of my mom's laughter. Ryan, what brings you to our house? Hello, Auntie. I was out and just happened to be passing by. I brought some fruit for you and Uncle. I pressed my ear against the door, quietly listening. Passing by? How come I never knew she'd pass by here before? This is definitely a lie. My mom laughed and said, thank you, Ryan. Ah Kong is home too. I'll go call him. I was on the verge of tears. My dear mom, at a time like this, couldn't you just pretend I don't exist? Next, I heard a knock on my door. Kong, come out. Look who's here. Who else could it be? Time to play dumb. It's your sister Ryan. Didn't you used to say she was your favorite when you were little? I was completely bewildered. When did I ever say something like that? But in this situation, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and go out. The moment we saw each other, the awkwardness was beyond words. I forced a smile at her. And then my phone buzzed again. It was another message from the lively girl, Ju Gangly. Honey, it's your wifey. I looked up sharply. And once again, our eyes met. She smiled mischievously and brightly, with a playful smirk at the corner of her mouth. It was as if she was saying, "So, it really is you." Meanwhile, I felt so embarrassed I wished I could dig a hole deep enough to bury myself in a mansion. In the living room, my mother was enthusiastically entertaining her. "Ryan, it's been so long since we've seen you. Stay and have dinner with us tonight." I kept giving Liu Ryan desperate looks. "Don't agree." Liu Ryan glanced sideways at me. "Sure, Auntie, I'd love to. If my mom weren't present." I would have leapt up and knocked some sense into her. I ran away. "Why did you follow me all the way to my house? Aren't you afraid of the awkwardness?" "I am." When my mom left to buy groceries, she kept reminding me, "Kong, keep Ryan company." The moment the door closed, it was just the two of us left in the house, thinking about all the things I had said online. I wanted to bury my head like an ostrich. I turned and tried to slip back into my room, but Liu Ryan was quicker. She darted forward, blocking the door just as it was about to close. What are you doing?" I felt a surge of panic, meeting Liu Ryan's sweet smile. She slid in and shut the door behind her with a quick turn of her hand. I took a deep breath, but she calmly approached me, her eyes fixed on mine. "Why did you run?" I stammered, unable to look her in the eye. "You weren't like this online." Liu Ryan's gaze was filled with amusement as she studied me. "You told me. Once your heart was mine, nothing else mattered. You said no matter where you were, the place you most wanted to be was by my side." She stepped closer again, and I could feel the warmth of her breath. Liu Ryan giggled softly. "Didn't you say you had a secret to tell me?" Mouth to mouth. I was beyond anxious. Unable to listen any longer, I quickly reached out and covered her mouth. Her words were cut off instantly, but her lips pressed softly against my palm, warm and gentle. The breath from her nose, sometimes light, sometimes heavy, fell on the back of my hand. It made my heart race. "Stop talking," I muttered, ears burning red. Slowly, I pulled my hand away from her mouth. "I didn't know it was you online. Let's pretend none of this ever happened." Liu Ryan studied me carefully. "Why should we pretend it never happened? This is so strange between us. So everything you said online was a lie? You were just playing with me, deceiving my feelings?" The word "playing" hit hard. After seriously dating online for over half a year, how could it be fake? I stammered. "It wasn't all fake. It's just that my mind is a complete mess right now. I've known Liu Ryan for too long. Both of our families are close. She knows every embarrassing thing I did as a kid. She even knows about my middle school crush on a senior girl. She practically knows all my secrets. So, does that mean some of the things you said were true?" Liu Ryan looked at me intently. I nodded and she suddenly leaned closer, her face enlarged in front of me. Our nose is brushing, breaths intertwining. I could even clearly see her long eyelashes. Instinctively, I held my breath. Then I heard her say, "So when you said you liked me the most, that was true too." Liu Ryan, don't take what I said online too seriously. My tongue was tied in knots. I've already taken it seriously. In an instant, I could hear my own heartbeat, fast and erratic. Thank goodness my dad arrived home just in time to save me. "Xiaoyan's here." My dad greeted Liu Ryan like she was his own daughter. "It's been so long since we saw you. Stay and have dinner with us tonight." Liu Ryan sweetly replied. "Sure." "What were you two doing hiding in your room?" my dad asked casually. But to me, it felt like a battlefield. I kept signaling to Liu Ryan with my eyes. She, however, remained calm and said, Ah Kong said he had a secret to tell me. Why did you have to hide to tell it? My dad chuckled, then started asking her about college life. The two of them were soon chatting enthusiastically, while I sat on the side feeling like an outsider. Inevitably, the topic of relationships came up during dinner. Parents seem to have a special interest in these things. My mom, ever curious, asked, "So, did you start dating anyone in college?" Liu Ryan casually glanced at me. My heart skipped a beat. I buried my head, pretending to be focused on my food. Then I heard her say, "We've already been dating." Immediately, my parents' gossip mode kicked in. "Where's the boy from?" "From here, same as us. He goes to the same school as me." "Doesn't he?" "How long have you been together?" "Who made the first move?" "He did. But now, he doesn't want to admit we're in a relationship anymore." She sighed slightly, making my dad click his tongue in disapproval. "What's wrong with this guy? Starting something and not finishing it." Liu Ryan smiled faintly. "Maybe he doesn't like me anymore. There are plenty of good guys out there. If he doesn't like you, don't be upset. You have so much going for you. You're beautiful, smart, and you'll have no trouble finding someone better." My mom consoled her. I kept my head down, but then I heard her softly say, "But I only like him." My breath caught in my throat. My ears felt like they were burning. I couldn't bear to look at Liu Ryan. After dinner, I quickly retreated back to my room, trying to avoid any more contact with her. I didn't know what she really meant, whether she truly liked me or was just playing games. Ever since we were young, I could never understand her. "Ah Kong, take Ryan home on the scooter." Mom called out to me from outside. "Can't she go back on her own?" I shouted back through the door. "She's had a bit to drink tonight, and it's not safe for her to go alone." "How can you be so thoughtless? You two used to be so close. Why are you so shy now that you've grown up?" Reluctantly, I grabbed the scooter keys and stepped out. With no choice, I rode her back home. On the way, neither of us spoke a word. It wasn't until we hit a speed bump near her neighborhood gate that the scooter jerked. And suddenly, Liu Ryan wrapped her arms around my waist. My breath hitched. My whole body stiffened. She had drunk a bit, and even her breathing was warm. I could practically feel it so vividly. Her breath, alternating between soft and heavy, fell on my back, sending a shiver through me. The summer wind brushed past my ears, hot and intense. The hands around my waist felt scorching. "Ah Kong," she suddenly called out. "What?" I responded, my tone less than friendly. "You look really nice today." Once again, my ears betrayed me by turning red. After dropping Liu Ryan off, I went home, took a shower, and lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Her words, "I like you," echoed in my ears. I opened the chat window with the lively girl, Ju Gangli, clicked on her profile, and simultaneously opened Liu Ryan's WeChat. I started comparing them. There wasn't a single similarity. Liu Ryan and I had only exchanged greetings during holidays. When we were kids, we used to play together a lot. But as we grew older, there was a need for distance between boys and girls. It was impossible to act like we did when we were younger, being so close and carefree. Naturally, we drifted apart. But how could I have ever imagined that the person I had been calling wife for more than half a year would turn out to be Liu Ryan? Heavens, strike me down with a bolt of lightning already, just as I was about to open Liu Ryan's WeChat Moments and click on her profile picture. My finger slipped and the chat screen notified me that I had patted Liu Ryan. I was utterly dumbfounded. I quickly hit recall. My heart raced and jumped into my throat. Holding my breath, I waited over 10 minutes. No response from Liu Ryan. Only then did I let out a long sigh of relief. That was way too embarrassing. For the next few days, I quietly stayed at home. Even my parents thought I might be sick. Until one day, my mom told me we were going out for dinner and asked me to get dressed and come along. I was excited, thinking my parents were taking me out to a nice restaurant. We did go to a restaurant, but it wasn't just the three of us. Liu Ryan's family was there too. At that moment, I was utterly confused. My mom kept nudging me in the back. "What are you standing there for? Say hello, greet Uncle and Auntie properly." I forced a smile from the corner of my lips. "Ah Kong is getting more and more handsome," Liu's mom said with a warm smile, then looked toward my parents. "Ryan came over to your house the other day, and her dad and I have been meaning to treat you to a meal. But we've just been so busy lately." "Oh, you're too kind," my mom responded. "Mom, why didn't you tell me earlier that we'd be eating with them?" I tugged at my mom's sleeve, whispering under my breath, "It's a surprise." This was more of a shock than a surprise. "Ryan, sit next to Ah Kong. You two haven't seen each other in so long. It's a good time to catch up," Liu's mom said warmly, and she immediately pulled Liu Ryan to sit next to me. Sitting so close to her made me feel as if I was sitting on pins and needles. Meanwhile, she seemed completely at ease, even occasionally helping me with food. The thought that I had been calling her wife online for half a year, I just couldn't sit still anymore. In the middle of the meal, I excused myself to the bathroom, hiding inside for a while. When I came out, Liu Ryan was standing in the hallway. It was just the two of us in the empty corridor. The air felt awkward. I forced a smile and said, "You need the bathroom too?" "No, I'm waiting for you. You seemed like you had something to say on WeChat the other night." It was exactly what I feared would happen. I tried to stay calm, but kept my head down, avoiding her eyes. "It was an accident. I slipped." I felt both embarrassed and flustered. I lifted my head sharply, about to protest. But the moment our eyes met, she playfully flicked my forehead with her finger. With a light laugh, she asked, "What was that?" "Speak properly, don't hit me." Liu Ryan stepped closer, her eyes mischievous. "I'm teasing you because you're my husband, aren't you?" Her voice whispered in my ear, like a flame. A flame that felt like it was about to set my entire being on fire. When I returned to the private room, my ears and face were still burning. I kept drinking iced cola, trying to calm myself down. Liu Ryan was still sitting next to me. Well, my mind was in turmoil because of just a few words from her, but she remained completely composed, as if the one who had flirted just moments ago wasn't her at all. How did I never notice this side of her before? Maybe it was because I drank too much iced cola. But later that night, my stomach started feeling uncomfortable. I didn't sleep well. By the next day, the pain had worsened. With my parents out, and not returning anytime soon, I had no choice but to go to the clinic outside the neighborhood on my own. They hooked me up 2 and 4, so I found a seat to sit by myself. As the medication took effect, the pain in my stomach eased, and I eventually drifted off to sleep. It wasn't until I was startled awake by a child's crying. My body instinctively moved, but the hand with the 4 was gently pressed down. "Don't move." I turned to the voice and saw Liu Ryan sitting beside me. In the clinic, a mother was soothing her crying baby. Liu Ryan tilted her head and looked at me. "How are you feeling?" "Better. How did you get here?" "And he called me. She said your stomach was acting up. She was worried, so she asked me to check on you," Liu Ryan muttered. "You've always had a bad stomach, yet you never take care of yourself. You've been like this since you were little. You've never known how to look after yourself." As she spoke, she reached out and gently touched the back of my hand. leaning closer in the process. The sound of the crying child continued to fill the clinic, making the atmosphere quite noisy. I grumbled softly. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you saying all those things last night, I wouldn't have drunk so much iced cola. Fine, blame me, she chuckled. Blame me all you want. Liu Ryan smiled softly. Don't worry, I'll take responsibility for you. Though the surroundings were chaotic, her voice was gentle. When we left the clinic, she insisted on walking me home. Already feeling unwell, I didn't have the energy to argue with her. I let her follow me. It wasn't until I got home that I realized the spot on my hand where the forwas had started bleeding. Probably because I didn't press it long enough. Kekong, you really don't know how to take care of yourself at all. Liu Ryan grabbed some cotton from my family's first aid kit, pressing it gently against the spot where the needle had been. Then, as if casually, she mentioned, "Have you been avoiding me lately?" "I haven't," I said, feeling a bit guilty. "Don't lie," Liu Ryan chuckled softly. She stared at me and said, "He Kong, look at me." I lifted my head. The moment our eyes met, it felt like our breaths had become entangled. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "Do you really not like me?" Her breath brushed across my face, and it made my heart flutter and my chest feel warm. My face was burning and my heart raced. "And what about you?" I shot back. "You said in front of my parents that you liked someone, and made it seem like I wasn't willing to admit our relationship. So much so that my mom thinks I'm playing around. Wasn't that intentional? You just wanted to see me flustered. To embarrass me, right?" I snapped. "Ah Kong, you've always held grudges since you were a kid. Who's your Ah Kong?" I muttered. Liu Ryan laughed softly. "Yes, I did it on purpose. But when I said I liked you, I meant it." Suddenly, my heartbeat felt amplified in my ears, so loud it was driving me crazy. It was as if the air around us had ignited, and the lack of oxygen made it hard to breathe. Her fingers, which had been pressing against the back of my hand, slowly shifted. I felt her fingers slide between mine. Our palms pressed together, our fingers interlocking tightly. I felt my entire body heat up, my head dizzy. It felt like I was coming down with a fever. A noise outside the door snapped me back to reality. I quickly pulled my hand away from hers and fled to my bedroom as if running for my life. Hiding behind the door, I breathed heavily, my entire body still burning hot. The fingers she had been holding onto still felt like they were burning. A warmth that lingered, wrapping around me like flames. "Ryan, thank you so much for today." I heard the door open, and my mom's voice followed. "It's nothing, where's Ah Kong?" "In his room." Hearing this, I hurriedly lay on my bed, pretending to sleep. As the footsteps drew closer, my mom walked up to the bedside, placing her hand on my forehead. "I thought your stomach hurt, but now you're running a fever?" "No fever, just hot. It's the middle of summer. You're wrapped up in so many blankets. Of course, you're hot," my mom said, pulling me out from under the blankets. Liu Ryan stood at the foot of the bed, looking at me, her gaze intense, not hiding anything. Her look made my heart race. "You definitely didn't eat anything this morning. I'll go make some porridge. You're all grown up, yet you still don't let anyone rest easy," my mom sighed, then glanced at Liu Ryan. "Ryan, don't go. Stay for lunch." "Really, Andy, it's no trouble. It's settled. I'll go start cooking." As soon as my mom left, it was just the two of us in the room. I buried my head back under the blankets. I heard footsteps approach and felt the bed slightly sink next to me. Someone was tugging at my blanket. Liu Ryan sat at the edge of the bed, smiling down at me. "You've always been like this. When something happens, you either run or hide. You bolted when we first met again, and now you're hiding like an ostrich." I'm not, I blurted defensively. Do you really not like me at all? You feel nothing for me? My mind was a mess. I knew for sure that I liked the lively girl, Ju Gangly, but after finding out she was Liu Ryan, I was completely thrown off. I had no idea what to do, feeling utterly confused. It was like everything was spinning. Let me ask you another way. Do you hate me? I quickly shook my head. How could I possibly hate Liu Ryan? We'd grown up together for so many years. If I hated her, I wouldn't have stayed in touch all this time. Suddenly, Liu Ryan leaned down, her hair falling in strands as she got closer to me. She was someone so familiar, yet. But at this moment, the aura she gave off felt so unfamiliar. Unfamiliar enough to make my heart race with unease. If you don't hate me, then let's give each other a chance. I want to pursue you. As she spoke, she lowered her head, and a burning kiss landed on my cheek. I instinctively held my breath, tense, as if a wave of heat surged beneath the blanket, making my entire body break out in a layer of sweat. I don't want to be just your childhood friend anymore. I want to be your girlfriend. Okay, her voice was soft and alluring. A hook that tugged at my heart. I might have been enchanted. My mind completely foggy. And without thinking, I nodded. Her smile widened in front of me. Radiant yet unsettling. Back up a bit. My voice came out muffled from beneath the blanket. Why, she asked. Don't you feel hot being this close? I want to be even closer. What kind of dangerous words were those? The sweet, innocent girl I knew what happened to her? How did she become so good at flirting? Mom, please come save me. I was starting to feel like I didn't recognize Liu Ryan anymore. My illness had come quickly, but it seemed to be fading just as fast. Mom suggested that I treat Liu Ryan to a meal, to thank her, since finding out she was Ju Gangly. This was our first time eating alone together. The atmosphere was a little awkward. We were too familiar with each other. She ordered all my favorite dishes, and I picked her favorite ones. When we started reminiscing about childhood memories, the awkwardness seemed to dissolve instantly. You used to cross out my name and bring my perfect test papers home to trick Uncle. And when you got caught, I got scolded by my parents too. Liu Ryan said, shaking her head in exasperation. I did terribly on that test. I couldn't bear to take the paper home. That's because you were obsessed with that senior girl at the time, always watching her dance by the window. Who are you calling obsessed? I pouted. That was just part of my youth. I'm not like you, always focused on learning dance routines. I don't just focus on studying. Oh, what else do you know? I asked casually. I know everything about you. I pursed my lips. Damn, I got flustered again by her teasing. Talking about our childhood, the awkwardness seemed to disappear. On the way home, Liu Ryan bought bubble tea. My favorite peach oolong. It even had a thick layer of cream on top. Rich and fragrant. I brought the cup to my lips, sipped the tea, and licked the cream. This place still has the best bubble tea. Nowhere near our university has anything this good. It's sweet but not overwhelming, but there are plenty of tasty little restaurants near campus. As the cream clung to my lips, I instinctively licked it off. Liu Ryan asked, "Do you have any favorite food near your university?" I didn't notice the change in her gaze. Too busy licking the cream off my lips. There are lots of cute guys in college, too. You don't have to stay hung up on me, this crooked tree. We know each other too well. It's hard to feel anything romantic. Maybe we're just not a good fit, I muttered softly. How do you know if you don't try? How do you know we don't fit? Liu Ryan said. Hearing this, I instinctively turned to look at her. Try it. See if it feels right. You'll never know unless you experience it yourself. How else will you know if you won't fall for me? That sounded logical. Weren't you the one who said you'd give me a chance to pursue you? Are you regretting it now? Then, do you want to feel it? Liu Ryan suddenly leaned in. Feel what? Before I could react, her hands gently cupped my face, and she kissed me. In an instant, it felt like the air around us had been sucked away, leaving me breathless. I froze, my heart pounding wildly. We were on the street. Was she crazy? Liu Ryan moved quickly, giving me a brief but soft kiss, then pulling away just as fast. She grabbed my hand, her face flushed as we continued walking forward. I pressed my lips together, feeling an itch in my throat that I couldn't shake. It seemed like her warmth still lingered on my lips. She had moved so quickly, I barely had time to process it. Now, the memory of that moment kept replaying in my mind, making my heart beat even faster than before. I was completely flustered. Ah Kong, she called my name suddenly, snapping me out of my daze. Though I still hadn't fully recovered from what had just happened. So, how do you feel? I licked my lips, feeling like they might peel off. But Liu Ryan smiled shyly and said, Peach Oolong is indeed sweet, but not overwhelming. That kiss had left my mind in complete disarray. Even after I got home, the scene kept flashing in my head. I actually kissed Liu Ryan. The thought alone made my face flush and my heart race. There was no way I could calm down. When my mom opened the door, I was rolling around in bed with a pillow over my head. What are you doing? Nothing. I popped my head out. Do you need something? I wanted to ask if you properly thanked Ryan when you treated her to lunch. She came running as soon as she heard you were sick. You should be more polite to her. I've noticed ever since you came back from break, you've been ignoring her. That's really rude. Next time, be more considerate. Okay, I won't do it again. I forced a smile. I thought to myself, Mom, your son has already been kissed by her. How can you say I'm ignoring her? When I complained to Liu Ryan about this, she just laughed out loud. I think your parents like me more than you, she teased. I must be their real daughter. And you're the one they found. Liu Ryan nodded. I'm definitely their daughter. After all, I'm going to marry into your family one day. Liu Ryan, have you been possessed by something? Since when did the sweet, innocent girl I knew become so good at flirting? Liu Ryan's been pursuing me now. Almost every other day, Liu Ryan would ask me out. At first, I felt a bit uncomfortable, but eventually, I got used to the shift in our relationship. This routine continued until the end of summer break approached. Our middle school class president organized a reunion, and it was held at a hotel. Nearly 30 people showed up in the private room. The boys and girls sat at separate tables. When I arrived, Liu Ryan was chatting with a few of our female classmates, gathered around discussing the latest tech gadgets. We barely interacted during the entire gathering. That was until a male classmate approached her. It's been a while. I heard you're at P University too. I am. Liu Ryan responded without giving him much attention. When are you going back to school? Do you have a lot to pack? Maybe we can travel back together. Everyone is an adult now, so some things don't need to be said outright. The classmates immediately started teasing. I frowned as I watched the scene unfold, feeling a bit annoyed, a sourness building inside me. But since Liu Ryan and I hadn't officially defined our relationship, I didn't think I had the right to interfere. At that moment, Liu Ryan spoke up. Sorry, I can't go with you. Her direct refusal left the guy standing there awkwardly, stammering, "Are you leaving early?" "That's okay. We can meet at school later. How about exchanging contact info first? I don't have your WeChat." "Sorry, I don't use WeChat." When Liu Ryan said this, the entire room fell silent. It was an obvious lie. Who doesn't use WeChat these days? The guy, realizing he had no chance, retreated in embarrassment. Even if you're rejecting someone, there's no need to be that blunt. One of her female classmates nudged her arm. "Don't you think that was a bit harsh? You didn't have to be so direct." Liu Ryan glanced at me. "I already have someone I like. I'm just afraid she might get jealous." Honestly, rather than leaving the guy with lingering hopes by being ambiguous, a clear rejection, even if it stings in the moment, is a form of kindness. The girl sitting next to me remarked, "So Ryan already has someone she likes." Whoever it is, that guy must be really lucky to be her favorite. As our eyes met for a brief moment, my heart raced even faster. Because for me, she rejected all flirtations and possibilities. In love, who doesn't want to be the one who's favored? The second half of the reunion took us to karaoke, where we partied until almost 11 p.m. I was just about to leave when I reached the door, only to see Liu Ryan surrounded by two guys, chatting away. They seemed to be having a good time. Ever since middle school, Liu Ryan had always been popular with the boys. Even though everyone knew we were childhood friends, guys would still come to me, asking me to pass her love letters. Compared to her, I was just ordinary. I wasn't much to look at, nor were my grades particularly good. When my college entrance exam scores came out, I barely made it into a decent university. Even I felt like I got in by pure luck. My exam luck was out of this world, but Liu Ryan was different. She was often featured on the school's honor roll in high school, a shining star everyone admired. When I told people she was my childhood friend, no one believed me. That's when our relationship started drifting apart. So when Liu Ryan said she liked me, I couldn't believe it. There were so many guys better than me who liked her. Watching her chatting with those guys, I decided to turn around and head home. The cool breeze of the summer night brought a hint of chill. As the noise of the gathering faded away, I found myself feeling a bit lonely. It wasn't until I heard someone calling my name that I stopped and turned around. "Why are you running?" Liu Ryan, panting slightly, had chased after me. "It's not like we live far apart. We used to live next door to each other until the neighborhood was demolished and we moved apart. And now you're leaving without even saying goodbye." I saw you chatting happily with those guys, so I didn't want to interrupt. As soon as I said it, I realized how jealous I sounded. "You're jealous," Liu Ryan exclaimed, as if discovering a new continent, her eyes lighting up as she stared at me. "No, I'm not," I retorted stubbornly. "Are you sure?" She gave me a playful look, and I locked eyes with her. "I told you I'm fine." Before I could finish my sentence, she suddenly leaned in, planting a quick peck on my lips. The words I was about to say got swallowed back down. In their place was the sound of my heart skipping a beat, and the shock on my face. "Why did you kiss me again?" "Because," Liu Ryan whispered into my ear with a soft laugh. "Your jealous, stubborn face is a little cute." I couldn't help myself. "There are so many great guys who like you," I mumbled quietly. "Why would you like me?" "In my eyes, you're the best." I held my breath for a moment. "If it had been someone else you were dating online, would you have felt the same?" Liu Ryan pinched my cheek lightly and said, "It could never be anyone else." I blinked, stunned. "What do you mean by that, Liu Ryan?" I pressed further. "Why couldn't it be someone else? I always knew it was you." she said, taking my hand, holding it tightly. The warmth in her palm felt like a flame, sparking something deep inside me, like the awakening of spring. So she knew all along that I was the person on the other side of the screen. She liked me the entire time. I was in shock and a little embarrassed. All the flirting I did online, she knew it was me the whole time. Then why didn't you expose me? Because I was afraid you'd run away. But after meeting in person, why would I run if I knew it was you? Meeting you in person and meeting at school are different. At least I can chase you to your house, she said with a grin. You can't escape. The summer break flew by, and soon it was time to return to school. I started school a week earlier than her. I complained to her about how unfair that was. She just smiled and said, to make it up to you, I'll treat you to a meal. The day before I returned to school, she took me to my favorite hot pot restaurant. After dinner, she suggested we walk home. Everything was packed and ready. With her parting so close, the mood was a little heavy. Even her voice was a bit low when she spoke. I asked, do you want me to see you off tomorrow? No need, my dad will drive me. Who knows when we'll meet again after that? Maybe not until Mid-Autumn Festival or National Day. If you want to see me, you can come to my school. She smiled and said, there's this great spicy hot pot place near my campus. If you visit, I'll treat you. Then out of nowhere, Liu Ryan asked, if I really come, how would you introduce me? Huh, I asked, confused. Would you say I'm your childhood friend or your girlfriend? Her question threw me off and left me feeling a bit flustered. She circled around to face me, looking up and staring straight into my eyes. Ah Kong, I've been chasing you for so long. When are you going to give me an answer? She was standing so close, her breath brushing against my skin, making my heart race. I instinctively held my breath. It was already early autumn, but the night breeze still carried warmth, making everything feel hot. Liu Ryan didn't press me. She just smiled and said, it's fine, I'm not in a hurry. You can take your time, but think carefully. Because once you agree, I won't let you go easily. Her words made my heart skip a beat. My pulse quickened, and later I realized I might have been mesmerized by what she said. Without thinking, I blurted out, Liu Ryan, come a little closer. I have a secret to tell you. The moment she leaned in, I suddenly kissed her on the lips, then pulled her into my arms. Her flushed face pressed against my chest. At that moment, she could hear the steady thumping of my heart. Liu Ryan tightened her arms around my waist and said, Ah Kong, I already know your secret. I don't know how long we held each other, but eventually we took each other's hand and started walking towards her house. Without a word, we seemed to share a silent understanding as we walked hand in hand, circling her neighborhood over and over. It wasn't until my phone buzzed with a call telling me to head home that she stopped walking. Do we really have to part now? Liu Ryan looked at me seriously. How about one more lap? Our eyes met, and she smiled, let's do it your way. So we walked around the neighborhood 2 more times, before reluctantly parting ways. Lying in bed, I still felt like I was dreaming. I thought being so close to her for so long would make dating her feel awkward. But to my surprise, it wasn't bad at all. We exchanged a few more texts before. She urged me to sleep early, reminding me that I had to get up early for school. Don't stay up late, okay? Got it. You should sleep early too. I doubt I'll sleep. Why? Can't sleep. I'm excited and I'm thinking of you. We just parted ways. But with this long distance thing, I might be sleepless every night. Is Liu Ryan some kind of magician? She's way too good at flirting. If you keep flirting like this, I won't be able to sleep either. Sure enough, when I showed up the next day with dark circles under my eyes, my parents looked at me in disbelief. Wow, what did you do last night? Your eyes are so dark. Nothing. A thief snuck into my room. What? My mom looked startled. Don't say such nonsense. How could a thief break into our house? It's true, a thief stole your son's heart. Back at school, my roommates asked about my online relationship. So how did things go with your lively girl over the summer? As I made my bed, I couldn't help but smile when I told them we were officially together. They were all shocked. They had warned me against online dating. But now they all crowded around, asking if she was pretty and what her figure was like. They even demanded a picture. Kong, are you sure she's the real deal? I pressed my lips together and said, I've already met her parents. My roommates were stunned. Met the parents? Are you guys moving that fast? Are you planning to get married and have kids before we graduate? I heard you get extra credit if you get married in college. Someone joked. That's just a myth. Another roommate countered. But if Kong gets married, I should probably hit the gym and lose weight so I can be the best man. My head was starting to hurt. They were overthinking everything. After making my bed, I called Liu Ryan. When my roommates overheard me having a sweet, mushy conversation, they all pretended to shiver in mock disgust. After an hour-long phone chat with Liu Ryan, my roommates started interrogating me again. Spill it, when did you two start dating? Yesterday, I replied. Right, they scoffed. You're telling me you started dating yesterday and already met her parents? Come on, at least make your lies more believable. They were skeptical about my relationship, so I decided to tease them further, refusing to explain. I'm telling you, everything I said is true. Sure, whatever, call her over to treat us to a meal. Then we'll believe you. Later that night, around 9:30 p.m., I lay in bed, texting Liu Ryan. What are you up to? Just got off the bus, she replied. I figured she was just out and about. So I didn't think much of it. My roommates don't believe we're dating. They want us to treat them to a meal. How about the late night snack? I sent her a question emoji. I'm already at your university's south gate. I blinked for 2 seconds in shock. Liu Ryan stopped joking around, but then she sent me a live photo. And sure enough, it was our university's south gate. I jumped out of bed like a fish out of water, ready to rush out in my pajamas. Thankfully, my roommate stopped me. Dude, your lively girl really showed up. You better change into something decent first. They held me back. All of them excited. Get dressed and freshen up. My roommates were holding me down. No need. I'll just go like this. You've seen me in all kinds of states, I said. I changed my clothes, slipped on my flip-flops, and rushed out, since it was the start of the semester. And still summer. The area around the school gate was bustling with people. From a distance, I spotted Liu Ryan standing under a streetlight. Her luggage beside her. Ryan, I called, rushing towards her. She smiled brightly, opening her arms to welcome my embrace. Why are you in such a hurry? I'm not like you, I won't run away. Liu Ryan reached out and tittied up my slightly messy hair. Why did you come? I asked. I missed you, so I came to see you. I buried her head into my chest, only to hear her say, let's go to the hotel first. My ears instantly turned bright red. Isn't this moving a bit too fast? I thought. Liu Ryan noticed my blushing face and burst into laughter. What are you thinking about? I just want you to help me put my luggage in the hotel. My face grew even hotter. Kong, clear your head. Stop thinking about nonsense all the time. Are your roommates coming for the late night snack? I'll ask them. When I checked with my roommates, they all enthusiastically agreed. So I went with Liu Ryan to the hotel first, to check in and drop off her luggage. At the front desk, the receptionist looked at me with a knowing smile. You're not staying tonight, she asked. No, I'm just helping her with her bags. The receptionist's smile deepened, and I felt my face turn red again. As soon as I swiped the card and entered the room, before I could react, Liu Ryan pulled me in. The hotel room was dim, with the curtains open. letting moonlight spill across her delicate face. I found myself pinned between her and the door. She looked up at me, a playful smile tugging at her lips. The air conditioner wasn't on, and the room felt stuffy. The heat made me sweat all over, and my heart began to race. Thump! It was beating so fast. It felt like it might leap out of my chest. She leaned closer, her warm breath brushing against my face. She gently brushed her nose against mine, cool yet warm at the same time. The room was too hot, and it felt like both of our bodies were on fire. My heart was pounding, so much so that I could barely breathe. But the kiss I was expecting never came, leaving me feeling a bit impatient. I couldn't wait any longer, so I lowered my head and kissed her on the lips. She let out a soft laugh. Looks like you're the impatient one. Before I could reply, Liu Ryan lifted her head and kissed the corner of my lips. In that instant, it felt like sparks igniting a wildfire. I wrapped my arm around her, pulling her close, responding to her teasing with equal fervor. Her dark eyes gleamed, and she quietly surrendered herself to me, soft and compliant. By the end, she was completely leaning against me, breathing softly. If we didn't have plans with your roommates, I'd want to stay here with you forever. Liu Ryan rested her head against the crook of my neck, and even her breath felt warm against my skin. I was practically burning up. Even as we left the hotel, the cool night breeze carried a hint of relief, but it still couldn't dispel the heat in my heart. The wind felt sweet, like it was laced with sugar. When I introduced Liu Ryan to my roommates, they all yelled in surprise. One of them even threw his arm around my shoulder, leaning close to whisper, "Kong, you're the man. With the high rate of online dating disasters, you actually managed to snag someone like her? We've discussed it, and we'll allow you not to return to the dorm tonight. For our late night snack, we had barbecue." At first, my roommates were reserved, just nibbling on a few skewers. But after a few beers, they loosened up and started asking questions about our relationship. "When did you start liking Kong?" Liu Ryan glanced at me. "A long time ago." "How long?" They pressed further. "Probably when we were kids, playing house." He said he wanted to be my groom. My roommates were in shock. Childhood sweethearts. My roommates suddenly understood. "No wonder you've already met the parents so early." I was even more shocked, my mouth hanging open. I vaguely remembered. It was when we were really young playing house. I said I wanted to be Liu Ryan's groom, and she had looked reluctant. Back then, I was just a bit taller than her. So when she refused to let me be her groom, I kept teasing her relentlessly. Eventually, she awkwardly took my hand, and I thought she was just giving in. Turns out she had been willing all along. My roommates were so full of jealousy, they almost tossed their skewers away. "We've had enough of this lovey-dovey stuff." One of them groaned. "Even the food doesn't taste good anymore." Liu Ryan stayed at my university for a week, occasionally attending classes with me. Since she was new, she naturally attracted attention and whispers from my classmates. "Stop coming to class with me," I pleaded. "I'm becoming a celebrity around here. I just want to let everyone know that you're taken," she teased. "Not many people chase me around here. I'm pretty self-aware. I know I'm just average. At best, I'd say I look decent. There's not that much interest in me." Liu Ryan chuckled. Better safe than sorry. The night before she left to return to her school, we had dinner together. When you're in the early stages of a relationship, you never want to part, not even for a second. I accompanied her back to the hotel. "It's too hot. I need to take a shower. This time of year, just walking around makes you sticky." Liu Ryan, being someone who sweats easily, would happily shower 3 times a day if she could. She went to shower, and I sat down in a chair, watching the semi-transparent glass wall of the bathroom. The partition was frosted glass, So while I couldn't see everything clearly, I could make out some blurry outlines as the sound of running water filled the room. I coughed softly, feeling like my ears were turning red just from the sound. About 7 or 8 minutes later, Liu Ryan stepped out of the bathroom. She stepped out in a loose nightgown, steam still rising from her body, with droplets of water dripping from the ends of her hair. The moisture still clung to her skin, and the fabric of the nightgown stuck to her slightly, highlighting the shape of her figure. I coughed and quickly looked away, trying hard not to stare. "What are we going to do now?" I asked. The moment I spoke, Liu Ryan walked over, leaning in close to me. "You've come all the way to the hotel with me. So what do you think we're going to do?" My face turned bright red, and I turned away, scolding her. "You're shameless." "Well, I've done plenty of shameless things to chase after you," she teased. "I even lied to my family, saying I was going back to school early for classes. But really, I came just to see you. So I don't mind a little more shamelessness." Before I could respond, she tilted her head and kissed me. The kiss was hot, and there was no escape from it. I found myself trapped between her body and the chair, nowhere to run. I grabbed her by the waist, and with a swift motion, she settled herself on my lap. We kissed and held each other, and somehow, we ended up tumbling onto the bed. Now I was on top, my hands on either side of her. Her face flushed, her eyes hazy. Her cheeks were so red, they looked like they might bleed. I gently brushed aside the damp strands of hair on her forehead. "Ryan, we haven't been together long," I whispered. "I'm afraid moving too fast might scare us. We have a lot of time ahead of us." Saying that, I kissed her lips softly and rolled to the side, lying down next to her. I pulled her close, wrapping her in my arms. "The more you like someone, the more careful you become." She snuggled into my embrace, sighing softly. "I wish I could pack you in my suitcase and take you with me." I gently patted her back, and suddenly, memories from our childhood flooded back. I used to be so stubborn, and after arguing with my family, I'd sulk and refuse to eat. Liu Ryan would call me silly for not eating, but she'd secretly sneak me snacks. She'd also stay up all night with me on the last day of vacation, helping me cram to finish my homework, and when I was about to do something that seemed completely foolish, she would laugh at how silly I was. But she always stuck by my side, even joining in my craziness. From childhood to now, she's always been with me in her own way. When I first started dating Liu Ryan, I didn't tell my family right away. At first, I was worried that if we broke up after a short time, it would be awkward when our families met again. But the longer we dated, the harder it became to figure out how to tell my parents. Without realizing it, our relationship turned into a secret. Liu Ryan even jokingly changed her online name to the Underground Worker. Things took a turn during the Mid-Autumn Festival of my 3rd year in college. The day before the holiday, Liu Ryan showed up at my house with gifts. These are Hong Kong-style mooncakes my parents brought back from their trip. I wanted to give some to Uncle and Auntie to try. My mom accepted the gifts politely, though she kept trying to refuse at first. "Your parents are too thoughtful. And didn't you send us something for New Year's last year?" Liu Ryan replied with a smile. "Why don't you stay for lunch?" my mom offered. Sure, Liu Ryan agreed immediately. Much to my surprise, I shot her a sideways glance. "You really don't hold back, do you?" "Ah Kong, keep Liu Ryan company while I cook," my mom said as she headed to the kitchen. We exchanged knowing glances, both understanding without saying a word. She followed me to my bedroom. As soon as we got inside, we embraced, holding each other tightly. After a while, she noticed the photo album on my shelf and picked it up to look through it. The album was filled with pictures from my childhood, many of which featured Liu Ryan. "Look at this one." I pointed at a photo of us riding a motorbike together. Liu Ryan's forced expression in the picture looked a bit funny. "You look so silly here," I teased. "Well, what about this one of you climbing a tree?" she retorted, pointing to another picture. In it, I was sprawled across an old locust tree, crying my heart out. That was when the locust flowers were in full bloom, I recalled with a laugh. I climbed the tree to pick locust flowers, but got stuck up there, holding the trunk and crying my eyes out. When I got home, my mom scolded me for it. It's such an embarrassing memory. I quickly reached out, trying to cover the photo. Let's not look at this one. What's the big deal? Haven't I seen you in every possible state? Liu Ryan laughed, raising the photo album higher so I couldn't hide it. No way, you're not allowed to look. I reached out to grab it, ending up practically falling on top of her. Our bodies were pressed together, and the atmosphere suddenly softened. It felt as if the air had been set ablaze. Charged with a palpable tension, Liu Ryan lowered the album, wrapped her arms around my neck, and kissed me. My heart leapt, my breath still shallow. As I leaned into her, my hands naturally found their way to the back of her head. Being at different schools, long distance had been tough for us. We always had to sneak around during breaks, so every second we spent together was precious. We cherished every moment. This kiss was especially intense, so much so that the photo album fell to the floor. A few pictures slipped out, showing me, her, and moments from our past. Now, only the two of us remained in the present. When the kiss finally ended, she collapsed against me, gasping softly. When are you going to tell your parents about us? I caught my breath, whispering softly in her ear. How about this new year? But as usual, plans can't keep up with reality. Just as we were savoring the moment, my mom suddenly pushed open the door, calling out, "Ah Kong, help me run downstairs and grab some soy sauce." All our plans went out the window. I had forgotten to lock the door. When my mom came in, Liu Ryan and I were still in each other's arms. She looked completely stunned. It wasn't until I blurted out, "Mom," that she snapped out of it, her face filled with shock. What are you doing?" I awkwardly let go of Liu Ryan, clearing my throat. "Mom, if I told you we were just playing house, would you believe me? I may have presbyopia, but I'm not stupid. Both of you, come out," my mom commanded. Liu Ryan and I sheepishly stepped out of the room. Once our relationship was known to both families, the biggest change was that we could date openly, without sneaking around like before. We were just like any other long-distance couple, treasuring the moments we spent together. Because we couldn't see each other often, we were so familiar with each other, knowing each other's likes and dislikes, and our time together was always pleasant. But then graduation approached in our senior year, and we faced the challenge of finding jobs. It was the first time we had a disagreement. Liu Ryan wanted to move to a big city to pursue her career, while I wanted to return to my hometown to build my future there. Neither of us could convince the other, and for the first time, we parted on bad terms. When I returned home for the break, my mom noticed I was feeling down, and she teasingly asked, "What's wrong? Did you argue with Ryan?" "No," I replied stubbornly. "You're really lucky to have someone like Ryan," she said with a knowing smile. "Well, she's lucky to have me too," I protested, feeling indignant. Mom laughed and said, "Ever since you were kids, you've always been the one making trouble for her, and she's always had to look after your feelings. When you're in a relationship, Kong, you can't always be like that. You need to take care of each other. You can't just expect her to keep giving all the time." Her words made me pause. I realized that it had always been this way. Ever since we were young, Liu Ryan had always been the one taking the initiative. She was the one who cared for me, while I was the one being doted on. Even after we started dating, nothing had changed. I had gotten used to it. Her care and attention felt natural to me, and I took it for granted. But my mom's words made me reflect. What had I really contributed to this relationship? In the second half of our senior year, Liu Ryan moved to the city. She landed a job at a big company, working long hours without rest. We didn't talk as frequently as before, but she still made sure to text me every day, saying good morning and good night. She even reminded me to eat less takeout, don't stay up till late, even though we weren't in the same city. She'd still remind me to take an umbrella when it rained. My roommates were all busy with graduation and job hunting, and one of them asked uncertainly, Kong, are you really sure about going back to your hometown? I just smiled, not saying a word. When graduation came, I sent some of my belongings back home, dragging a suitcase behind me. I bought a ticket to City B. When I arrived in City B, it was already dark. The city's neon lights sparkled, as bright as daylight. Compared to my hometown, this place felt like a completely different world, full of energy and life. In that moment, I understood why Ryan was so determined to build her career here. She texted me, telling me she'd be working late tonight. I left my suitcase at the security office of her apartment complex, then walked to her office building. A strong evening wind blew, and soon it began to drizzle. Luckily, I had packed an umbrella. I waited outside her office for over half an hour, until I finally saw her. It was the first time I'd seen her, wearing a business suit. Looking so professional and sharp, she stood at the entrance, staring at the rain, unsure of what to do. Ryan, I called out to her. When she saw me, she froze for a moment, staring in disbelief. It was the first time I'd ever seen her look so stunned, a bit silly even. I walked over, holding the umbrella, half of it covering her from the rain. What's the matter? Don't you recognize me? You here? She asked, still in shock. You're always reminding me to bring an umbrella when it rains. How could I let you stand in the rain? I didn't check the weather today, she admitted. I wasn't expecting this. Her simple words made my heart tighten, and I felt a wave of emotion rise in my chest. It's okay from now on. When it rains, I'll come pick you up and take you home. Ryan stood there for a few seconds, processing what I had just said. Then she wrapped her arms around me tightly. She had always been the one taking care of me, making compromises and looking after my needs. Every time, it had been her who came to see me. So this time I'll go find her.